All right, so good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Teresa Doherty, and I'm the coordinator for Business and Information Technology programs here with Virginia Beach City Public Schools. And it is my pleasure to take you through curriculum updates for digital applications for the 2020-2021 school year. So this recording is taking place in August of 2020, and the focus for this year is really going to be on some of the changes to the pacing and to our virtual start to our school year. So I'll briefly touch on some of those other resources that we've talked about in Schoology, but by and large, that's kind of where our focus is going to be on. It will be on what the resources are that we have and how we're going to start the year with the pacing. So I want to go ahead and share my screen real quick over to our Schoology course. So hopefully what you're looking at right now is the landing page for the digital applications course in Schoology. And this was a new course for us last year, so so we do have some training in there. If you ever want to go back and look at the essential training from last year, we've got that. But essentially, this is just a semester smorgasbord of a course. It does have a credit attached to it, but essentially all it's going to do is touch on a lot of different parts of computers. So it covers a little bit about basic operations. There's a little bit of keyboarding in there. We talk about some different software applications, and that of course has changed as we have shifted to a virtual environment the last few months. There is not a certification that is tied to this course because it's a semester course. You're never going to see one of those. However, if you have students who are interested, this is a great springboard of a course to encourage them to sit in a computer information systems course, or maybe an information technology fundamentals course, something like that. So those do have certifications tied to them. So completely up to you, but I would definitely consider encouraging those students who perhaps are interested. Also, this digital applications course is one of the few that are kind of bridge the gap between middle and high school. So it is a high school credit course. However, we do have some middle school students who take this digital applications course for high school credit. So this is one of the few opportunities that our middle school students have to earn some high school credit as well, which is nice. Typically, because it's a semester course, it is paired with another semester course, which is desktop publishing. And we're going to have a meeting on that immediately after this one, although it will be recorded separately. So you'll be able to find those uploaded in their respective groups. But yeah, so anyway, this is a semester course, kind of touches on a lot of different things. We're going to spend most of our time in this resources tab down here. And I'm gonna kind of briefly touch on some of these resources and materials down here for those who may be new. And I'm gonna spend most of my time in this virtual learning support folder, which is where you're gonna find most everything that you need for the start of this school year, the 2020-2021 school year. You'll notice up here as well that there is at the very top a folder labeled training and updates, and this will be here for as long as the course is in existence. Essentially, once this recording is done, it's going to be uploaded in there, and any prior recordings would also be hosted in there. So any essential trainings, any updates, anything like that that's recorded. And what I've done is I've created a YouTube channel that has all of these on-demand trainings for all of the different content that's covered under business and information technology. It's all in there. So, so all this will offer is a link out to that YouTube, the YouTube link out to that training on that channel for this course. So at any rate, let me go ahead and run through some of this very briefly for those of you who are new to the course, or maybe new to CTE, or you may notice we call it TCE, although we're kind of making a shift over back to TCE. This is something that came out last year before last, where it's, here, let me see if I can maximize this so that you can see all of it. here. And there's something like this front matter piece for every single course that's offered. It's not just a TCE kind of thing. This is something that is across the board. And you'll have to excuse the dog barking in the background. We are working virtually. So I've got a few other companions in my office that I don't usually have. Anyway, this guide is something that is kind of available, not kind of, it is available in every single course that's offered, but I put it in here because it's got some live links on some things that might be helpful to refer back to. So if you're looking for the strategic objectives for Virginia Beach City Public Schools, that's in here. If you're looking for the framework, that's in here. Course competencies and things like that. So there are a lot of live links that are in here. And also, there is information that would be helpful when you're looking for maybe to beef up some things in your classroom, or maybe you just need some extra incentives. There are things like a TCE literacy school box and creative strategies. And again, those are all live links. So this front matter is a really great document to go in and take a look at whenever you've got a minute. It's not the shortest document ever. Clearly it's 20 pages long. So, you know, it's not something that I would necessarily read from beginning to end, but you could scroll through it. And like I said, click on, see what's available and click on some of those things as you find them. So like I said, for the most part, if you've seen one front matter, you've seen all of the front matters. The only things that are different from one to the next are some of the links that go to competencies, and some of, like, you may have noticed that there were some units listed at the front, or just a screenshot of what the framework looks like. That, because this is a digital applications course, that's what you're seeing is the digital applications, but that would be different in a tech ed class or a family and consumer science class, that kind of thing. So anyway, I'm not going to spend any more time on that. Just wanted to touch on it. And then the other area that you would typically spend most of your time in would be this resources folder. And this is where all of the units and assessments and things like that are. And we were kind of in the midst of revamping things last year throughout the school year. And if you talk to some of the other members of this group who have been teaching digital applications since the 2019-2020 school year, they may have been part of a working PLC group that we had division-wide that met quarterly, and we were kind of working to revamp the pacing guide and some of the curriculum and trying to flip things around and come up with some ideas on how we wanted to put all of this together. So this is typically where you would be. I would say you could come back here and pull things for what you need for the updated pacing. I would like at some point in the 2020-2021 school year, I'd like to revisit this again as a PLC and see if we can come up with something that's a little bit tighter in terms of how we want to introduce different topics, because I know we had some really good discussions surrounding that. So anyway, this is typically where you would go. This year I kind of curated as much as I could and put it in that virtual folder, but this is where you would usually find it. One of the other things that you won't be using this year, at least in this folder, is the competency log for this course. Now you'll notice that it is a link rather than just a single document, and that's so that it's always updated. So it takes you straight out to our CTE resource website, which is where all of our competencies for all CTE courses are kept. However, if you have been with us for at least a year, you'll know that in the last year, the website crashed, and it has not yet been put back up. So right now, VDOE is working to, I think, create just an entirely new website that will have everything on there like we had before, just in an updated format. For now though, this I think will just take you to a broken link. So they've provided some PDFs and I've given you links to that under our virtual group. So, but that's typically where you would go. One of the, well, actually, let me just cover a couple of other things. I'll go over the workplace readiness in the other folder. For those of you who are not familiar, FBLA stands for Future Business Leaders of America, and this is our designated student organization for business and information technology programs. And something that is an important distinction to make between the student organizations that are in CTE, like FBLA, and other clubs that you might see within your school, is that this is a student organization that is considered co-curricular, not extracurricular. So it's not a club per se, it's a chapter of an organization that's intended to align with the competencies that you're teaching in the class. So it's intended to be a part of the class, it's integrated in there. And there should be an advisor, at least one advisor for FBLA at each location, and there should be a stipend attached to that. I'm not entirely sure how that works at the middle school level, but we do offer FBLA at the middle school level, which means there should be a stipend attached to that. And there was an audit a few years ago, so the stipends should, for each type of club or chapter, like the professional development FBLA chapter that we have, there should be a stipend available. You just need to check with your AP about that. As long as there is an advisor position, the stipend should be attached to it. They shouldn't be taking that and assigning it anywhere else. Anyway, we've got lots of folks who have done some really great things with FBLA, and I know they would be glad to share with you what they have learned. I can also connect you with our regional and state folks and help get you started if it's something that you've never done before and you would like some help. I would be more than happy to help you with that. So the last thing I want to point out down here is this strategies folder. And typically it's got a mix of content and pedagogy strategies in here. This is really intended to be a reference for you. It's not intended to be something that you read straight through. More like, you know, if you're looking for some help with a particular area, or if there's something that you want to do in your classroom and you need some help with it, this is a way to get to it. So I do try to ensure that the links stay updated. So I do go through every so often and remove stuff that's no longer relevant or that has the link is broken or no longer works. But these are just some things that I would recommend. Some of it is reading, some of it is tied to things in our internal website. For example, the social emotional learning strategies and the culturally responsive practice strategies. These are things that are linked to an internal page. So with stuff like that, you do want to make sure that you're logged in. If you're not on at a school site, you want to make sure that you're logged in under your school email or your school Google account. That way it'll let you access it. But other than that, it's just got a lot of really good information there. And rather than you having to go out to Google and grab a bunch of different things and hope that it's good stuff and that it works and that it's not going to get you in trouble. This way you got everything. I've already vetted it for you, and I put it in here because I think it's worth a read. It's worth your time. So that's for you to kind of look at your leisure. And really the last stop on our training for this year is this virtual learning support folder. So this is different from the emergency learning that was taking place in the spring of 2020. Now that we're returning for the 2020-2021 school year, and we have a virtual start. This is just to kind of move us forward in a more successful, cohesive manner. So what's inside here is a pacing guide that's updated for a 4x4 environment, links for the course competencies that are updated from VDOE, so it's got that PDF. And then I've curated specific resources for you that I think are going to be of greater help for you in a virtual environment. So before I get into that, let me see if I can pull this up. I think I have to share a different, I want to share this PowerPoint thing with you. So let me see if I can do that. We'll just start. We'll move that out of the way there. Okay. Oh, it's under my launch button. Sorry, y'all. We'll just do it from up here. Maybe. There we go. All right, so really quickly, you may have noticed, and I don't know, because I know that schedules are still coming out and things are still changing, and I couldn't even tell you what people are teaching. But because this year they have shifted to a 4x4 schedule, what they've done is combined the digital applications and the desktop publishing classes into one single course. And so there's a new course number for that, which is 6619. What I want to assure you of is that we're still using digital applications and desktop publishing competencies from Verso. We are not integrating these as one entire course, at least not this year. I don't even know if this is something that's permanent. This is just what's taking place for this year. So you're still going to teach the digital applications competencies first, and then you'll move on to the desktop publishing. What it has done, and you will hear more about this from your site administration, is it shifted that pacing, like I said, to the 4x4. So now, rather than having our typical semesters, they've shifted the terminology to terms, and each term has been subdivided into marking periods. So again, you don't have to write all of this down. You'll get this information from your site admin as well, but I just kind of wanted to share that with you so you could see what was going on with each of those marking periods and each of those terms. So essentially for the semester courses that we have, those are now going to become 9-week courses. So basically a year's worth, the digital applications and the desktop publishing, which would typically make a 1-year course, will now be done in half the time in a single semester. So I just kind of wanted to make sure that you had that information as well. I know sometimes the trickle down doesn't happen as quickly as we would like. So I wanted to make sure that I shared that with you while we're here. Okay, so let me go back to our digital applications. Okay, so now we should be back in our Schoology group for digital applications, and I'm going to go into this virtual learning support folder so that I can share with you a little bit about what this looks like. So this is the 4x4 pacing guide for this course, and we'll see how it works. I am 100% positive that we are going to need to do some revamping, especially if we stick with the 4x4. I will also say for my middle school folks, I am still not sure how they're going to handle the instructional time. I haven't really received a good answer for that. I don't know if, I know sometimes you guys hear things at your sites before we do, so maybe we can discuss a little bit about that later. but this is kind of where we're at for the 4x4 schedule. So like I said, middle school, I don't know if they're gonna do that for this class or if they're gonna do it differently, because as far as I can tell, you're not being given a double block of time. So I don't know how they would expect you to teach that with half the instructional time and twice the instruction and half the instructional time. So anyway, here's what your schedule kind of looks like. This is what I kind of set up all the pacing guides to look like. So I did it just for the first 9 weeks. And as we kind of move through the first part of the school year, I'll come up with another one, but the idea would be that we're just kind of focusing on this. So the topics are really going by the units. So it does match up with the units that you saw under your resources. So you still can go back over there and grab what you need. But this just kind of gives you an idea of what you should be covering and when you should be covering it. In this next column, I put what resources you might use in order to cover that. And you are going to notice there are some new resources in there, and we're going to talk about those in just a minute. I do want to mention very briefly, these competencies may not match up to what you see on the PDF of competencies that are linked out to VDOE. And that is because VDOE made a shift over the summer where they took our first few workplace readiness competencies, which are the same across the board for every CTE class, and they took them out of all of our courses so that the courses now begin with content competencies rather than actual workplace readiness competencies. So I am going to need to shift that around a little bit. So as you're looking at these competencies, I'm so sorry for the dog barking. As you're looking at these competencies, just know that I may need to update some of those for you. So let's go back this way. Okay. The next thing that I wanted to show you was this workplace readiness, because remember I was telling you it was shifted out. Here, I'm going to go make sure the dog is quiet. I'm sorry, y'all. So in this folder, I put the link to the PDF for the competencies. I do kind of want to show that to you quickly. So you'll notice it's just a PDF, so it doesn't have quite the same impact. Oh gosh, and this one is not even pulling up. I don't know if it's showing up for you guys or not. But basically it's if you went to the Verso website that we usually had, you would be able to click on a competency and there would be additional information about it just to kind of flesh out the idea. It might even have links to suggested projects or lessons or things like that. And of course, with this, we don't really have that. With this, we just have the competencies, which should be showing up here, and I'm not seeing them. So I don't know if it's just not loading properly or what. I'll make sure that, that we check that out. But that's where they are. The other things that I put in here were the workplace readiness skills that they pulled out. So because you don't have those anymore inside the competency list for specific courses, the expectation is still there. It's just that they have pulled them out because it's something that really should be integrated throughout the course. It's not really intended to be a standalone, you know, we're going to do these couple of units at the very beginning and we're going to talk about work ethics and we're going to talk about lifelong learning, and then we're never going to talk about it or practice it again in the class. Really, it's just kind of something that's integrated throughout. So that was one of the reasons that they pulled that out, I think. So anyway, there's a PDF down here that kind of describes all of the 38 competencies. And then up here, rather than giving you a whole bunch of different links and modules and everything, I gave you a single link to the landing page that had the most curated resources. So, and some of you have probably been here if you've been with CTE for any length of time. CTEX just has this lovely listing of different websites that you can go to that have resources. Right there on that website, there are different learning modules and videos and things that you can use. And I would definitely encourage you to just check it out when you've got a minute, see what you might like to use and how you might like to incorporate that. So it does give you a little more flexibility and freedom to set this up. And I think it's a little less stressful, in my opinion, to look at that listing of competencies and not have 38 of them staring at you in the face at the very beginning. I kind of think that's probably feels a little bit better from an educator perspective. So a couple of things that I want to chat with you about. The first is this idea of ClassLink. Now, this is something that's new for this school year, and it is replacing Clever. So for those of you who are not familiar, Clever is a single sign-on platform that was available through each school's website, and all of the materials, or as many as possible, were placed on there, whether they were portals to other websites or they were software subscriptions, things like that. Teachers could log in, it automatically recognized them as a teacher, and it automatically recognized the students who should be tied to that teacher. So it made things like creating accounts and populating sections of classes super easy. Over the summer, they have made the shift from the Clever platform to the ClassLink platform, which does the exact same thing, plus it has a few more bells and whistles. That training is not going to come from TCE. That's a division-wide shift that was made. So that's something that that is going to come from your school, just so that you got that information.
However, it is definitely something she knows we're going to need to talk about sooner rather than later, because
somebody might need to mute their mic. Okay. So anyway, ClassLink is something that is going to be replacing that Clever, that training. I would talk to your ITS about it if you haven't already heard about it, but that's where most of this is going to come or be placed. I put that request in. So I put that in parentheses through each of these, beside each of these, so that you know it's something that should show up there, and that I will be looking for that as well as they get ClassLink. While I'm on that subject, I also want to share with you that we are working on being able to launch a virtual desktop for you that will allow the students and you to log into a Windows desktop anytime you need, whether you're logging in from a Chromebook or a laptop or wherever you're at. And those will be available with the software that you need for your classes. So if you're teaching a class that requires Microsoft, or you're teaching a class that requires access to geometrics or what have you, all of those links are going to be, or software and things are going to be loaded onto several different versions of Windows desktops that we've got. So we and DOT have been working on that all summer very diligently, and we've gone through a couple of different iterations, tested a couple of different iterations, and we go back and kind of let them know, hey, this software needs to be loaded, or this is, you know, not moving as quickly as it needs to move, or that kind of thing. So our goal right now is to have that ready to roll out to you as school gets started, for you to check on, and then for the students to be able to have access to that, you know, maybe a few weeks beyond that. So anyway, the idea is that that all students would have access to it. You're not going to be limited to the number of desktops that you might have in your classroom if you are at the high school level, or stations that you have in your middle school class. I'm really excited about that. It looks like it's going to work well. They're getting some of those speed issues and stuff worked on right now. So I'll be excited to see how that works. Okay, so a couple of things. The first is typing.com. So you may have been using EduTyping up to this point, and our subscription for EduTyping expired in June of 2020. And rather than renew that subscription, we made a choice to use that money to purchase a different resource for you, which I'll talk about in just a minute. In the meantime, though, what we've done to replace that resource is go to typing.com, and typing.com is free, and it's really kind of beefed up what it offers in the last couple of years. So I do think this is going to be something that is helpful for you. The typing.com, I'll just click on this so you can kind of see. And when we purchased the EduTyping, just as a little bit of background, when we purchased that, there was still a keyboarding and a keyboarding applications standalone course, and we don't have those anymore. Those courses have been retired. At least the ones that were for credit have been retired, which is those were the ones that we used. And they've been incorporated into other classes like digital applications. So it didn't really make sense to spend the kind of money that we were spending on that resource, knowing that really it's only about a unit's worth of material that's being covered now, where it used to be an entire semester. So anyway, this is just the landing page. Like I said, typing.com is free, or at least the version we're using is free. It's got a ton of stuff that's available for teachers though. And like I said, it's kind of beefed up the last few years. So all the same stuff that you were doing before in EduTyping. So being able to, customize exams and check on accuracy and record things, get reports from your students. You're still going to be able to do all of that on this. It has information on digital literacy. It still shows them how to format documents. Like there's still all of that same stuff in there, and it's a free version, and it integrates with ClassLink. So it kind of is a win-win for us in a lot of ways. If it's something that works really well, maybe we can consider looking at a premium account at some point, but I really do think that you guys are gonna like this. And like I said, even the free version, it's got a lot of really great stuff in here. So this too is something that should be put on ClassLink. So the idea would be that it knows that you're a teacher with Virginia Beach, and it knows which students are tied to you. So I'm not guaranteeing that we're not going to have any bumps, because technology seems to be rife with those. But I do think once we're able to get started and we kind of troubleshoot some of those things, it's going to be great. Here are some of those other things I was talking about, the computer basics and the internet basics. So it covers some of those other things, the workplace professionalism. It just integrates a lot of this stuff, and I really think you're gonna like it. And there's even more than this, but that's kind of that's where I'll stop for the typing.com. So this is what will replace the EduTyping resource that we had, is the typing.com resource. And below that is the e-readiness bundle. So I'm super excited about this. BE Publishing is a company that, if you've been in CTE for any length of time, you probably have used some of their resources. They've been around for a long time, and they just launched something. It actually launched this month, August of 2020, this e-readiness bundle. So they used to have a companion site to a lot of the materials, because they've got textbooks and posters and videos and all kinds of stuff that they offer resource-wise. And they revamped their companion site and turned it into an e-readiness site. And when they did that, they bundled up all of the different titles that they offer, which runs across everything that we teach in business and information technology. So what happened is they took a subscription. They said you can put as many teachers in there as you want. You can download as much stuff as you want for students. You can access as many titles, all the titles that are in there, and you can do it for this single price. And I thought that was a fabulous deal, and I definitely wanted to try it out this year especially. So it's great for those of you who are teaching more than one content, which is pretty much every business teacher that I have. You're not just teaching one thing. So you're able to go in there and look at some of those titles and use the ones that impact you. So I liked it because it's got some Microsoft Office stuff in there. It's got some keyboarding things. Google Apps is in there. You notice desktop publishing for the other half of the course is in there. Tech readiness. There's just a career readiness. There's just a ton of stuff. And so what I've done, we did purchase this, by the way. This isn't something we're just looking at it. It is purchased. And we're just waiting for the subscription to be fulfilled. So right now, because we're in August of 2020, you still have the capability to test drive this bundle. So I put the link right here if you want to do that, and it essentially gives you access to the same stuff you'd have if you had a subscription. So you can go through there before school starts and see if there's some things that you might like to incorporate, especially in the first few weeks. So like I said, if you're watching this year and it's still August, I would encourage you to do that. I think it's going to be really fun and interesting, and hopefully alleviate some of the anxiety and take some of that pressure off of you. So I put all of that, actually, I put all of that in this part here, so I don't think there's anything actually in the folder, but everything that you need is right there. So that's what's in our virtual learning support folder. That's where I'm going to stop for our training today. I hope you guys have a wonderful year. Know that I am always here to support you whenever you need, and I will speak with you soon, I'm sure.